to the Chynna Grace Show. And yes, I am 9 months pregnant, so you know I got a lot to talk about, right? Everything from health, occupation, entertainment, artists, poetry, you name it. Everything can be heard on the Chynna Grace Show. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Chynna Grace Show. And I have a very special guest with me today, and she goes by the name of Dr. Tasheka Green. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you today, Chynna?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
So I see that you have a lot going on with your book, To Everything is a Season, and then you have your fundraisers. So tell me about your experience being a book author.
Oh, so my experience about being a book author really comes to the why I started this work. And so I share this story so often because it is my story and my testimony to how the book's evolved. But in 2010, in February, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She was 53 years old. She had never been sick a day in her life. And in 30 days, she had passed away. And so that was a moment in my life that was very tragic and impacted me a lot. And prior to my mother passing, on her very last few days, she called me into her room. And she said these words to me, and she said, "Did I do a good job?" And I said, "What do you mean, did you do a good job?" And she said, "Did I do a good job in raising you?" I said, "You did better than a good job. You did a great job." And then she started asking questions, why me? And I told her how precious she was in God's eye. But then she really imparted something in me, and that was the impartation of helping people, serving people, and just impacting lives. And so she passed that mantle on to me, and from that day on, I've been running with urgency around helping people and trying to push them to their purpose and having them gravitate to greatness and trying to see that they have these gifts and talents in them that if they just apply it, they will be some phenomenal people. And so that's where the book started. So my first book in 2014 was called To Everything There's a Season.
And it was where can we get that book from?
You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Amazon. And then out of that book, it actually birthed some other books. And so I am still here living a purposeful life, with your 511, a 28-day guide to discovering your purpose. And then my daughter and I, who's 8 years old, wrote a book, and it's called 10 Purposeful Tips to a Successful School Year. And I'm now in the process of writing another book. It's called And Joseph Had a Dream, 7 Key Principles to Unlocking Your Dreams into Reality.
Okay. So you have your own publishing company? Or?
So I do with To Everything There's a Season. We do publish books, and so most recently I published my husband's book, and it's called Signature, Start the Conversation and Not End It.
So you have a lot going on.
I do have a lot going on, but I don't call it a lot, and I don't call it busy. I call it purposeful, because I live each day purposefully, looking and seeing how I can help others.
Okay. So I asked the question about the book offer, so I'm going to ask you another question. What inspired you to be a coach? I guess you're a life coach?
So I would look at it as a personal and professional development coach. Okay. Because when I look at life is an experience. And everybody have not shared the same experience. So most often people say to you, well, I understand. And I'm thinking, well, do you really understand if you haven't went through some of the things I went through? So I look at it more as a personal and professional development coach to help people to discover their why, their purpose, their what, and how to get there. So providing them with those resources and supports that they need to get there.
Okay. So I hear that you're bringing back, because I was there when you did your first fundraiser to Everything This Season. I enjoyed interviewing you and everybody else that was there. So you bringing it back this year?
So I'm not bringing it back. It's called an annual event now.
Oh,
and I celebrate that because one of the other things that I started was a nonprofit, and it's called the Deborah C. Offer Bulgin Memorial Foundation. And so that is a nonprofit I started with my mother, in memory of my mother, and keeping her legacy going. And we honor women of virtue walking in excellence. So under different entities, we celebrate women who have made an impact to their community and to their neighborhoods in the world. We celebrate them and honor them. But also now what I have started to do is honor daughters of women of virtue, because I also empathize with those daughters that have lost their mother. And so what we do is we make charitable donations in their mother's name and celebrate them. And this year at our 4th annual gala, which will be on October 13th, I hope you will be able to join us in Annapolis, Maryland at the Crown Plaza. We also are going to give 2 scholarships to 2 students in memory of my mom.
Okay. And what are the scholarships for? Is it for college?
It's for college, for books, and so we're not at the caliber yet where we can pay for a whole year or 4 years, but I'm praying and believing God for that, because he just took a little country girl with big dreams and high hopes and a trust in him, and have done all of this, and so I thank God for that. So I'm believing that we'll be able to pay for a 1 year, but right now just for books and small things that they can do.
Okay. So Tasheka, I have another question for you.
Sure.
You're an educator, you're an author, you're a singer, you're a coach, you're a publisher. How do you balance to do all those things?
Listen, the balance is called the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so because I have the joy of the Lord, and I know that it's God's purpose for us to help others, that's what I wake up every morning. And when I wake up, the first thing I say is, thank you, Jesus. And I said, what do you have for me to do today? And it's the strength that God gives me to, well, first, be a wife and a mother. That's my first role.
Right, exactly.
Don't elude that. I have a wonderful husband, 3 beautiful children, 20, 8, and 5.
Wow.
So, they give me energy. The educational piece, I love. That's what I studied as when I went to school. So I love educating. And one word when I was reading some of the questions you used was instructional guide.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I see myself. I see myself
Wow.
as a guide, as advising, not just other educators, executive leadership staff, community parents and students on way to go, and just, all of that. It's just a passion that I have, and it just gets me up in the morning and say, let's go do this. And then when I come home, I reflect and I say, whose life did I make a difference in today? And how could I have done that differently if I didn't?
So being as though you're doing all that, the author, the singer and all that, would you like to turn some of your books into movies? Would you like to get into the film side of making,
And it's funny you said that, because I've been thinking about, not really movies, but almost maybe a documentary. And I know that's also in the area of media.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I've been thinking about that.
Okay. So what inspires you to write that song, God, what was it?
Go Where God Leads.
Go Where God Leads. I'm sorry.
You know it. Don't act like you know. Listen, what inspired me, again, was just God. And so actually, I was asleep. I was sleeping. And I heard the words, I heard the music, I heard the melody. And God said, get up and write. And this was like midnight, and so I didn't write it. I actually began to sing it inside my iPad tablet. And then when I got up the next morning, I shared it with my husband, who's my #1 supporter. And he was like, oh, when did you do that? I said, about midnight last night. And so that's what inspired me. My inspiration is God, and he inspired me. And I turned it into a song, and it's on iTunes.
Okay. So people can purchase your song on iTunes?
Exactly. You can purchase that song on iTunes. You can purchase the books on Amazon. Everything's available to you.
Okay. So I hear that you're also an elementary school teacher?
So I'm no longer an elementary school teacher. I started out as an elementary school teacher in 2001.
Okay.
And so from an elementary school teacher, I evolved into what's called a talent and gifted teacher, a behavior specialist, assistant principal, a principal, a director of school performance, and now I oversee schools in a large urban school district. So I have taken everything that I've learned now, and I'm able to work in a larger capacity and reach more.
Wow. You do a lot.
I do a lot, but I love people.
Yeah, I can tell.
And so when you love people, you avail yourself, and you show how much you can do to help them.
Okay, so another question.
Yes.
What is one of the best ways for our children in particular to handle their problems if they're having any problems or issues in school? Because there's so much going on with this society now with violence and drugs and everything.
Exactly.
What advice would you give people?
So I love this quote by Benjamin Franklin, and the quote simply says, tell me, I'll forget. Teach me, I remember. Involve me, I will learn. And so the biggest advice that I give for people all the time is to involve children, to build relationships with them, to hear them and listen to them, and then also provide some actions that show, hey, I hear you and I'm listening to you, but this is the way that we need to go about this. So involve them, get them involved, even at the earliest age. My daughter is 8 years old, and I share this with people because it's a testimony for me.
Sorry to cut you off. Is she dealing with, bullying and stuff?
So she hasn't really dealt with bullying, But my daughter, I share this with everybody, that she actually was diagnosed at one point with attention deficit disorder, hyperactive disorder, and oppositional defiant. And so with that, I actually, as an educator, I had to step back from my educator role and say, as a parent, what do I need to do more as well?
Can you explain to us what ADHD is?
So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it means just what it says, that, you know, it's hard sometimes to focus because you're very hyper. But on the other hand, also oppositional defiant means you can tell me one thing, but I'm going to do the opposite of what you say. And so the way that I had to, again, as an educator, I knew what to do, but also I had to step back as a parent. So when you talk about how to deal with the children, we have to deal with it also as parents as well. Is that we're making sure that we are hearing them, that we're involving them, that we're understanding them. And it's not that you're compromising, it's that you actually know that there's a root cause to this, and we need to get to the root cause and what is it. So, you know, my daughter and I, that's why I said we wrote a book together about the 10 purposeful tips of a successful school year, because we were getting ready for school. And I knew it was something changed from coming from off a summer break where I'm just having a good old time, and now I need to go back to school. So we purposefully sat down and said, what are 10 things that you're going to do? So I involved her in that process, which actually turned into a book that's now on Amazon. So she's an author at the age of 7. And so that's how I involved her. And now when she goes to school, she has this self-esteem now that, oh, I'm an author. And all her friends are, you know, Michaela, I read your book. Can you sign my book? So that's why I say involve them, get to know them, understand them, communicate with them, and then, you know, build things together with them at this early age. They don't have to wait to get to, you know, 40 years old to be an author of a book. You can do that now. Believe in them and push them and get them to achieve those goals.
Okay. So last but not least, I have a question for you. So hypothetically, if you ever, not to say that you're not a millionaire, but if you...
And I'm not.
If you know, ever...
Yet.
If you were a millionaire, what would you do to help the community as far as like the school system? Would you bring back something positive to make an impact on yourself?
And that's a good question. So of course, if I was a millionaire, the first thing I'm gonna do is tithe, and then I'm gonna give something to my church. And then after that, you know, looking at those different entities that I have a passion for. So far as education, what I would do is I would continue to grow the nonprofit in the scholarship fund to go back to actually providing a 4-year scholarship for a student.
Now, would you do anything for people that have learning disabilities too?
Exactly. I would give back to those different foundations as well, or going into the schoolhouses to see what other resources they need. Because a lot of times when we look at helping our children, we lack resources. It's just getting down to the resources that we have. So going back and saying, what resources do we need so that we can help the children?
And also too, what advice would you give a parent that has a child that's also suffering from ADHD or ADD or dyslexia?
So the advice that I would give is just to be your #1 advocate. Be your #1 advocate for your child. Be that voice, because your voice matters, but also know how to be the voice. See, sometimes we want to be the advocate and the voice, but we don't know how to do it. So you know, learn. The Bible says, my people die because of a lack of knowledge. So you need to learn. So gather yourself around people that can help you. Read, Google. I mean, you're on Facebook and all this other stuff, spending hours, Google and do some research and learning so that you know how to be the advocate that you need for your child. Get involved in the school. Be there. Whenever the doors are open, show up. If there's a meeting you need to go to, a parent meeting, or, you know, IEP meeting, individual educational plan meetings, if you have, be there, show up so that you can be that voice and know how to be that voice.
Okay. So I'm going to get back into the book offer. That was some good advice. What are 5 tips that you can give someone about being not just being a book author, but just being the best-selling author?
So you speaking some things today. I'm gonna be a millionaire, I'm gonna be a bestseller, and I receive all of that. But the advice that I would give is, I would say, 1, capture your thoughts. And so most often people tell me, well, I want to write a book and I want to do this, but I'm so busy. And again, I go back to, are you being busy or are you being purposeful? So if your book is for a purpose, then what is that purpose, and capture it. The #1, you know, if you're, you know, purposeful and rather than busy, then you can always voice record it. You don't have to write all the time. So that's one thing that I said, is to capture your thoughts. And then after, you know, you capture your thoughts, then who is your audience? Who do you want that book or the writing to meet? You know,
not to cut you up, but it's what is it? Strategic marketing? Is that something that you need to
exactly
have when you're writing a book?
Who is your audience? Because my books, I classify them under self-help, inspirational. So who are your books to reach? So capture your thoughts, determine your audience, and then also what systems, supports, and resources do you need? I tell everybody, everything I did was funded by faith. Exactly. Every single thing was funded by faith. And so, God gave me the vision, He gave me the provision and the resources. So what are those systems and those structures and those different things that you need so that you can get the work? So just going back to capture your thoughts, who's your audience, what resources do you need? And then after you do it, after that, I would just say, just do it. Just execute it and do it. If you believe it, then seek it and achieve it. And after you execute it, guess what? That fifth one is done. If you didn't know, now you know. Your work is done. That easy. And those were the 5 tips that I would give somebody.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure interviewing
It's been a pleasure as well. I'm glad to have invited today, and I'm glad to have joined this with you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for giving out all your advice about being a book author and then a life coach and then also a teacher. I really do appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. We'll tune in again next time.
You gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. Many are the plans of man, but only God's plan will prevail. Don't be weary in well-doing. All you have to do is keep going. Have faith and believe, and know one day you'll receive all the blessings that's for you. He is going to see you through. You gotta grow where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. You gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. You gotta grow where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. You gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. You gotta go where God leads. Where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. They can see. You gotta go where you are. Where you are. And know that God will keep. He will keep. You gotta go where God leads. Where He leads. You gotta shine so people can see. They can see. You gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. You gotta go where God leads. Where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. They can see. You gotta grow where you are. Where you are. And know that God will keep. He will keep you. You gotta go where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. You gotta grow where you are. Where you are. And know that God will keep you.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining in to us today at www.voxwave, turning dreams into reality. We are excited to be here. It is raining outside, but guess what? The sun is shining in here, and we are ready to shed some light on your dreams today and help you to turn them into reality. Again, I am Tasheka Lanice Green. I am the founder and CEO of To Everything There's a Season, and I'm excited to be back. I'm here every second Saturday, 3 to 4 p.m., helping everyone that I can reach, meet, and teach to turn their dreams into reality.
Many times in our lives, we sit and wonder why God has us where He does. A living sacrifice to be an example to the world, so that everyone can see His goodness and His mercy, how His grace covers me. so people can see. You gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. Many are the plans of man, but only God's plan will prevail. Don't be weary in well-doing. All you have to do is keep going. Have faith and believe, and know one day you'll receive all the blessings that's for you. He is going to see you through. You gotta grow where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. You gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. You gotta grow where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. You gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. I am an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror. Gotta go where God leads. Where God leads. Gotta shine so people can see. They can see. Gotta go where you are. Where you are. And know that God will keep. He will keep. Gotta go where God leads. Where He leads. Gotta shine so people can see. They can see. Gotta grow where you are and know that God will keep you. You gotta go where God leads. Where God leads. Gotta shine so people can see. They can see. Gotta grow where you are. Where you are. And know that God will keep. He will keep you. Go where God leads. You gotta shine so people can see. You gotta grow where you are. Where you are. And know that God will